One of the major benefits of being a Cisco invested company is access to Cisco's channel partner network. But how do you get the most benefit from that? Well, we talked to two companies who know exactly how. Let's go and see. Hello, I'm joined by Ulrika from Live Action and Tracy from Elusive. Thank you very much indeed for giving up your time today. I think it's incredibly exciting to sort of walk around and see what everyone's doing, both in terms of their business, but also how they're attracting people. And one of the things that I've been learning quite a lot over the last few days is the benefits of working with a company like Cisco. And one of those is about channel partners. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is about how you get value from that kind of relationship. Channel partners is, of course, a topic that some people understand, but not everybody. And I'd like to put the camera straight to you and ask someone to decide if you could just define what channel partners means.
Sure. Well, Elusive Networks was founded as a 100% channel-based organization. So we go to market completely with our partners globally. For us, it's really about agility and scale. They know the local markets better than vendors do. They know who the decision makers are, and they help us to scale within those regions.
And is there anything to add to that, do you think?
No, very well put. It's exactly what I would say.
Well, that's fantastic. That's great. That starts off really, really well. Tracy, from your point of view, what are the key things, I guess, somebody should think about when considering a channel partner relationship?
Very good question. One that we talk about quite often internally. So we always start with defining the partner profile. What does our selling motion look like? And based on that, what's the typical profile of a successful partner? For us, it happens to be local regional security boutiques or larger national partners, many of whom happen to be Cisco partners, but ones that have specific security practices that deal with the decision makers that purchase our software.
So there's a plan in advance, you know the type of partner that you want, and there's a very clear set of relationship goals there.
Very clear set of relationships so that in the preliminary discussions we can set expectations and ensure that a higher percentage of the partners that we onboard are actually successful selling our product. It's a big investment both for us and for them, and we want to make sure that their valuable time is well spent.
What about from Live Action's point of view?
We have a similar point of view. For us, it's more also about how much time they're willing to spend to learn about our solution and to be able to offer that respective value to their customers. So we want to pick the right profile, partners, mostly with the right skill sets, and to be able to allowing us to scale in a very similar fashion.
Like every relationship, I guess you hope it starts off well and you put the time in, but are there any things that you've experienced that have been sort of negative and you think, oh, if only I knew that again?
Not at the top of my mind. It's maybe one thing, we have a spectrum of customers. Some of them are very large enterprises. Some of them are very much in the small, small, medium business. Their requirements are vastly different. I think, it's good to be, it's good to understand when you select your partners that, there's certain market segments that they focus, because the small versus the large customers are vastly different. I think that's something that we would consider more, from the beginning.
That's a really, really interesting point. And Tracy, what about yourself? Is there a different way of working within sort of larger and smaller partners?
So I'd say not a difference in the size of the partner, but for me, I started as a channel manager and then worked my way up into management. And one thing that I didn't really believe in early on, but I do now, is the value of business planning. Formalizing that strategy with the partner. It's good for the vendor because it allows us to define the things that we're going to try to accomplish over the next 12 months, but it's also really good for the partner to be able to hold the vendor accountable on what we're going to provide to them as far as onboarding, enablement, and services. I found that to be incredibly valuable to create successful relationships, again, to respect all of the work that they put into kicking off a new vendor relationship, but also to avoid what I like to call the bathtub effect. You have a great meeting with a partner, everybody's really excited, and then nothing happens, and you're in the bathtub, and it takes you a little while to come back out and generate revenue. We try to avoid that through the business planning process.
That's a really, really good point, and I guess the kind of experience pays dividends there when setting that up. And talking of experience, obviously we're very highly connected to the Cisco investment stand. We're just over there, and I've seen it sort of buzzing all day. What is the main benefits that you've experienced from working with Cisco Investments?
So for us, it's manyfold. So I was previously inside Cisco through another acquisition in the security space. So I spent 5 years within Cisco. I understand the organization well. For us, events like this provide us access to partners and customers, which is incredibly valuable for a small brand that is just emerging in the market. But perhaps the bigger value for me is networking inside of Cisco. Our technology is additive to all the security products that Cisco currently has in the market today. So we can augment that, and having those relationships here allow us to understand what other customers we can join with in the selling motion and generate pipeline.
From a channel point of view, what have you found the benefits of working with Cisco Investments?
Actually, many. For example, our product is now on Cisco GPL. So, through this relationship, we see a massive intake on new customers and new opportunities. And the other thing is also that we clearly see. In fact, I just had a customer that just came by my booth, and he basically said, "Well, I couldn't have done it without your software deploying SD-WAN," and they just rolled out 400-500 branches. So it was just amazing. And funny enough, we met him this time last year, same here in Berlin. They were just about to deploy. And this time, and right now, this time they came by and they told us the end goal, and they said this was fantastic, and it was just a really, really great feeling to actually witness this just exactly 1 year here. I thought it was pretty amazing.
I think those sort of personal stories are what I'm hearing quite a lot, and of course being at an event like this, it is very face-to-face, and that seems to add a great deal of value. You talked about being able to access kind of within Cisco, it's fundamental. What about from your point of view in terms of kind of accessing resources within Cisco?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have a fantastic, access to Cisco, not just on the channels, on the sales, but also on the development side. We're very close to a lot of the engineers, because without that close, relationship, we couldn't have put a solution together. It would be like bits and pieces or duct tape together. So that was, I thought, was one of the fundamental, advantages of having that relationship, was early on from the product development cycle all the way through your go-to-market and your, customers, etc. So that I see as one of the unique differences.
I'm smiling because I've done a number of these interviews so far over the last few days, and we talk heavy tech, but actually both of you very refreshingly have talked a lot about people and those relationships. Is that fundamental on a channel partnership level?
I think so. I always like to say, partners sell for people that they like. It's really, it truly is a partnership like any other social relationship. It needs to be founded in trust and properly aligned expectations and good communication. And so that's what we really focus on with all of our types of partners: technical alignment partners, reseller partners, and other types of partnerships that we have globally.
Looking into the future, over the crystal ball, over the next sort of 5 years, how do you see channel partner relationships changing and evolving?
Okay, for us, Cisco is evolving more to a software play, and we see that our channel partners they don't just want to be, doing reselling. They actually want to offer services on top of that to add value to their customers. So the relationship are definitely evolving to more like a deeper relationship, from the point that help you deploy, help you manage, and kind of share the success together. That's how we see it evolving going into the future.
Well, Tracy, what about yourself?
I have a very similar answer. So partners are really very focused on that migration from a product resale business to a service creation business, because it's a much more profitable sell for them. So for Elusive Networks, we work with partners not just in their consulting practices around incident response and remediation, but we're also seeing, and we expect over the next 5 years to see much more of an uptick around managed services and outsourced cloud services. We're a software-only solution, so it lends itself to that type of service creation, and that's really where the partners are starting to accelerate.
We've talked about a number of kind of key areas. One is about those relationships, and the other is about planning. Are there any other kind of key fundamentals that people should consider when thinking about this type of approach?
That's a good question. I think it really does go back to selecting the right partners, both for our sake and theirs, and setting some type of a plan. It doesn't have to be an incredibly rigorous plan, but there need to be expectations set on both sides. And I have found in my past that if early on those expectations are misaligned, it is not the beginning of a successful relationship.
I think it's a very valid point, and as I said, it's delightful that it really does come back to people, to the planning, and also ultimately the kind of value over the long term. Cisco Investments has invested in both your respective companies, and there's obviously a number of benefits, but looking at the channel partner side of things, what key thing stands out to you?
Sure, so for us, we were very lucky to align with a few of Cisco's largest resellers globally, but we actually didn't see that much mind share because we are a small emerging vendor. Once Cisco made the investment in us, it allowed us more mind share. Those partners who are heavily invested in bringing Cisco to market globally now understand that we augment the Cisco profile and product line, number one. And number two, the fact that Cisco is an investor, we're engaged on a technical level to continue to innovate our software so that we protect against security threats, even at the network level in the future, something that nobody else in the marketplace is providing.
What has LiveAction been able to do with the benefit of the Cisco investments?
I thought Tracy captured it all. For us, basically, if it wasn't the partnership with Cisco, many of the channel partners just wouldn't even give us the time of the day. That was a huge difference for us.
I picked up some top tips there for channel partnering, and it's been really, really interesting to speak to you both. Thanks so much for giving us the time of day. Have a great rest of the show.
Thank you, same to you.
Thank you.